What if the family that was supposed to protect you called you a mistake from the day you were born? What if the only person who believed in your worth was a man society said shouldn't even exist? And what if that man's love wasn't just for one person, but for four broken souls who never knew what home felt like? Sebastian Reynolds adjusted his white coat in the mirror of the free clinic on the edge of San Francisco's Mission District, the same ritual he performed every morning for the last 8 years. At 35, he had built a reputation as the pediatrician who never turned anyone away, even when the waiting room spilled into the hallway. His patients adored him, the staff respected him, and the city's queer community quietly claimed him as one of their own. Yet every night when he locked the door behind him, the same hollow ache returned, the one that whispered he was still the boy his own father had disowned at 19 for daring to love another man. That ache sharpened on a rainy Tuesday in March when the social worker brought in the four siblings. Ethan, 12, arms crossed and jaw set like he was ready to fight the world. Mia, 10, eyes fixed on her sneakers, silent as a shadow. Liam, 8, fidgeting so hard the plastic chairs squeaked beneath him. And little Sophia, 6, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit and staring at Sebastian with the kind of trust that could break a heart in half. Their file was thin but brutal. Mother dead from an overdose 2 years earlier, father in prison and had signed away rights with a single note. They were never supposed to happen. Mistakes, all of them. Relatives had passed them like hot potatoes until the system ran out of options. Sebastian knelt, so he was eye level with Sophia. "Hey, kiddo. I'm Dr. Seb. You want to tell me what your rabbit's name is?" She whispered, "Mr. Fluff?" And for the first time in months Sebastian felt something crack open inside his chest. He ran the usual checks: malnutrition, untreated ear infections, anxiety that made Ethan's hands tremble when anyone raised their voice. But it was the way Mia flinched when he reached for a stethoscope that told him the real damage was deeper than any chart could show. By the end of the visit, he had already made a decision he knew could cost him everything. "I'd like to keep seeing them," he told the social worker. "Weekly, if possible. Pro bono." She raised an eyebrow. "You're single, Seb. And you know how this looks." He met her gaze steadily. "I know exactly how it looks. But these kids need more than checkups. They need someone who won't call them mistakes." That night, he sat on his balcony overlooking the bay, wine untouched, and called the one person he trusted with his doubts, his best friend from residency, now a social worker herself. "Am I crazy?" he asked. Her answer was simple. "You're the only doctor I know who'd even consider it. Just don't do it alone." He wasn't planning to. 3 days later, Carter Ellis walked into the clinic carrying a box of donated books for the waiting room. Carter was 32, a third-grade teacher at a nearby public school, with an easy laugh and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of a person before deciding whether they were safe. They had met at a charity run 6 weeks earlier, exchanged numbers, and spent the last month dancing around the possibility of something more. Sebastian hadn't told him about the kids yet. Carter set the box down and grinned. "You look like you haven't slept." "Bad case." Sebastian exhaled. "4 cases. Siblings." Their dad literally wrote mistakes on the paperwork. Carter's smile faded. "Jesus. You taking them on?" "I think I already did." The words hung between them, heavy with everything Sebastian hadn't said. The custody battle he would have to fight, the homophobic whispers already starting in the hospital gossip chain, the terror that he might fail the very children who had looked at him like he was their last chance. Carter studied him for a long moment, then stepped closer. "Then you're not doing it alone." "Not if I have anything to say about it." For the first time in years, Sebastian allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't destined to walk through life carrying other people's pain without ever getting to keep any of it for himself. The first month was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Sebastian rearranged his one-bedroom apartment into something resembling a home, borrowing a pull-out couch and buying bunk beds on credit. The kids arrived on a Friday with 2 trash bags of clothes and the wary silence of children who had learned not to get attached. Ethan refused to speak above a mumble. Mia drew pictures of empty houses. Liam bounced off every surface until he crashed from exhaustion. Sophia followed Sebastian like a duckling, clutching Mr. Fluff and asking every night if he was going to send them back. Carter showed up after school every day with lesson plans disguised as games. He taught Liam how to channel his energy into building Lego hospitals, just like Uncle Seb's. He sat with Mia on the balcony and sketched the city skyline until she finally drew a house with 5 stick figures holding hands. Ethan remained a fortress, but Carter noticed the way the boy watched them when he thought no one was looking. One evening, Sebastian found Ethan in the kitchen staring at the fridge photo of Sebastian and Carter at the charity run. "You two like boyfriends?" Ethan asked, voice flat. Sebastian's stomach tightened. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times. "Yeah, we are." "That a problem?" Ethan shrugged, but his shoulders dropped a fraction. "My dad said guys like you don't raise kids right. Said that's why we turned out wrong." The words landed like punches. Sebastian crouched down. "Your dad was wrong about a lot of things, Ethan. Including you." That night Carter stayed late. They sat on the balcony after the kids were asleep, city lights glittering below. "You're scared," Carter said quietly. Sebastian nodded. "Terrified. What if the court decides a gay man in a one-bedroom isn't stable enough? What if I mess them up worse?" Carter took his hand. "Then we fight. Together. Because those kids already look at you like you hung the moon. And I'm starting to look at you the same way." The first crack in the armor came 2 weeks later when Sophia had a nightmare and crawled into Sebastian's bed at 3 a.m. He held her until she stopped shaking, singing the same lullaby his grandmother used to sing him before his father found out he was gay and threw him out. When he looked up, Carter was standing in the doorway with 2 mugs of tea, eyes soft. In that moment, Sebastian understood the real risk wasn't losing the court case. The real risk was how much he already loved them all. The custody hearing was scheduled for July. Sebastian's lawyer warned him the bio father had resurfaced, claiming he wanted his family back, but only after learning Sebastian had money and a reputation. The man's lawyer painted Sebastian as an unstable single gay man using the children to fulfill some agenda. The judge, an older conservative woman, asked pointed questions about Sebastian's lifestyle. Outside the courthouse, Carter waited with the kids, all dressed in clothes they had picked out together. Sophia clutched Mr. Fluff so tightly her knuckles were white. When Sebastian emerged pale but smiling, Ethan actually hugged him, brief, awkward, but real. "We're not going back to him, right?" Sebastian promised. "Not if I can help it." That evening, the 5 of them plus Carter crowded into the tiny living room for pizza and a movie. Halfway through, Liam fell asleep against Sebastian's side. Mia whispered, "I drew us a new house today, with a yard big enough for everyone." Sebastian's throat tightened. He had never felt so simultaneously anchored and untethered. But the fight was far from over. A hospital administrator called Sebastian in the next morning. "We've had complaints. Some parents don't want their children seen by a well, you know." Sebastian kept his voice steady. "If they have a medical concern, they can file it formally. Otherwise, I'll keep doing my job." He hung up and stared at the 4 framed drawings the kids had given him, stick figures under a rainbow. He realized the job he was really fighting for wasn't the one at the clinic. It was the one he had accidentally accepted the day he knelt in front of Sophia and asked about Mr. Fluff. Carter arrived after school with takeout and a quiet determination. "I put in for a transfer to a school closer to your place. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Sebastian kissed him then, slow and grateful, the kind of kiss that said thank you for choosing the mess. Summer brought heat waves and new battles. Ethan got suspended from summer camp for punching a boy who called Sebastian a freak. Sebastian sat with him on the curb after picking him up, both of them silent, until Ethan finally spoke. He said, "You're the reason we're all messed up." I told him, "You're the only reason we're not." Sebastian pulled the boy into a hug, the first real one Ethan had allowed. Mia began speaking in full sentences. She told Carter one afternoon that she used to hide in closets when her father yelled because closets were safe and dark. Carter listened without pity and helped her turn the fear into a story she wrote for school, about a girl who found a door that led to a family who chose her. Liam's energy found an outlet when Sebastian took him to the clinic on Saturdays. The boy helped, organized tongue depressors, and learned to take blood pressure readings on Sebastian's arm with a toy cuff. Sophia simply bloomed, bringing home drawings of all 6 of them, Sebastian, Carter, and the 4 kids, standing under a giant heart. But the cracks widened when the bio father showed up at the apartment unannounced, smelling of cheap whiskey and entitlement. You think you can buy my kids with your fancy doctor money? He snarled at Sebastian. Carter stepped between them, voice calm but steel-edged. These aren't your kids anymore. They're ours. The man laughed. A couple of queers playing house. The judge will eat that up. That night after the kids were asleep, Sebastian broke down for the first time in front of Carter. What if he's right? What if I'm just repeating the cycle, giving them a home only to have it ripped away because of who I love? Carter held him. You're not repeating anything. You're ending it. The media storm hit in August when an anonymous hospital source leaked the custody battle to a local blog. Headlines screamed, "Gay doctor fights for abandoned siblings. Hero or agenda?" Protesters appeared outside the clinic. Some patients canceled appointments. Sebastian's own mother, who had stayed silent for 16 years, called for the first time since he came out. "I'm proud of you," she said, voice shaking. "I should have said it sooner." Inside the apartment, the kids felt the tension. Ethan punched a wall. Mia stopped drawing. Liam's hyperactivity turned into nightmares. Sophia asked every night, "Are we still your mistakes?" Sebastian gathered them on the living room floor. "You were never mistakes. You were waiting for the right people to see how perfect you already are." Carter organized a small press conference on the steps of the clinic. He stood beside Sebastian while the kids held handmade signs that read, "Love is not a mistake." Reporters asked the hard questions. Sebastian answered every one with the quiet dignity that had always defined him. "These children taught me that family isn't about biology or gender. It's about showing up every single day and choosing them even when the world tells you not to." The judge's chambers hearing came 3 days later. The bio father arrived late and disheveled. Sebastian presented 16 months of medical records, school reports, therapy notes, and 4 letters from the children themselves. When the judge asked Sophia if she wanted to stay with Dr. Seb and Mr. Carter, the little girl looked straight at her and said, "They're the first people who never called us mistakes." The gavel fell on a crisp October morning. Permanent guardianship granted. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause from the handful of supporters who had shown up. Outside, the kids ran into Sebastian's arms, all 4 of them at once, nearly knocking him over. Carter caught the moment on his phone and later printed it for the fridge, proof that some stories really do rewrite themselves. They moved into a small house in Bernal Heights the next spring, backyard big enough for the swing set Liam had designed, and the garden Mia tended with quiet pride. Ethan joined the school soccer team and started calling Sebastian Dad without hesitation. Sophia's nightmares faded. Carter proposed on the anniversary of the day they first met the kids, down on one knee in the same park where the thumbnail photo would later be taken. Sebastian still worked at the clinic, but now he mentored other queer doctors who wanted to foster. Every year on the anniversary of the court decision, they held a family dinner and read the old file aloud, the one that labeled 4 children mistakes. Then they burned the copy in the backyard fire pit and toasted the life they had built instead. In the end, this story reminds us that the labels others paste on us, mistake, wrong, unworthy, only stick if we let them. Sebastian didn't set out to be anyone's hero. He simply refused to walk past 4 children the world had already given up on. His journey with Carter shows that real love isn't loud or perfect. It's showing up, day after day, even when fear whispers you're not enough. The lesson is simple yet radical. Every so-called mistake is just a beginning waiting for the right heart to turn it into a family. Choose courage. Choose each other. And never underestimate the power of one man who decides that love is worth every risk.